now if everybody has got everything ready, I apologize, there's not many handouts, but that's the expensive part, printing the handouts. And I need to, now, if you are using a FineTec paint or a watercolor paint, it's not going to work unless you wet it up a good 5 minutes before we start. So they need a long time to absorb the water. So right now I've got extra water pots if you need it, extra brushes if you need it. If you're using a watercolor paint or a FineTec paint, you need to get it nice and moist. You need to sort of run your brush around. If it's too watery, it won't stay on your nib. It'll just fall off your nib. You need to have a piece of card that you can practice on. We're going to practice before we put any on the square card. So make sure you've got a little piece of black card to practice on. Wet your paint up if you're using watercolor paint. And if you are in the room or on Zoom, you need to have something circular. Now I'm going to give you lots of options. I've made templates for the people in the room. Another thing that I love to use is this stencil that I got from Michael's. It has all kinds of different color circles on, size circles. It has the halfway marks written on it. It has the sizes written on it. It is such a useful resource if you want to do a quick circle. So I've had this for years and I use it all the time. If you don't have that, you could use the inside of a masking tape is a pretty good size for this. This inside of this is a pretty good size. You can use a regular pair of compasses to draw one. But you need something to get your circle that is about, what did I say? I have my ruler here somewhere. And my notes are, so I didn't, yeah. So I did my inner circle about 8 centimeters diameter. And of course I used some cutting tools so my inner circle was 3 inches actually. And I apologize for going from inches to centimeters. There's a reason for that. The cards that I buy at Michael's are 5.5 inches square. So I'm starting with inches. That means when I make the card, I've got to go in inches so it fits the Michael's card. When I picked up my stencils here and my cutting tools, they're all in inches. But to do the formula, if you want the formula, it's so much easier to work in centimeters for the formula because it's easier. So we don't need to be doing any formulas. So while your paint is absorbing the water, I don't want to zoom in too much. I want you to be able to see what I'm doing. Maybe I'll zoom back a bit. You need to get the center of your square card. And that's another reason to keep it nice and simple. So my square card is 5 inches across, so it fits the 5.5 inch card. And the center of that will be 2.5 inches. So I'm going to make a little pencil mark. You can use a white pencil if you want to. And then we need to go in the other direction. I'm going to put my ruler on that mark. And we need to go 2.5 inches in the other direction. Now, I usually use a pencil. It's easier to erase, but I'm going to use my white pencil so that people can see. Of course, I can't find my white pencil. It's disappeared on me. I have another color, that's okay. I'll use another color one so you can see. So I have my 2.5 inch mark here. And my 2.5 inch mark here. So where they cross there is the center. And I wouldn't normally make it this bright. I'm just doing that for the camera. I have made, if you're using the templates I've made a little hole in that. So you can sort of put your pencil through the little hole and get that on the center and line it up so it's in line. And if you want to make sure it's in line, you can, again, I'm going to use a much stronger pencil than I would use normally. So I'm just going to make sure I get that line that goes across even, 2.5 inches. And then I can make sure that these line up, get that hole in the center there, line it up with my pencil point, line up those lines, and draw around my template. Now, you can use a compass on your black card if you want to. The only thing that happens is you do tend to get the hole from the compass point in your black card. And if you make your circle on card first and use a template, then you avoid getting that hole in the middle of your card, and you can use your template over and over. And then this is my inner one, because I want words to go around the outer circle. I'm going to line up those lines and draw my inner one. And again, you can do this with a pair of compasses. You can do this with a template. You can measure and do it in a much lighter pencil than I'm using. So we've got that all ready for when we've practiced. Our paint has been absorbing the moisture. So what we are aiming for, we're aiming to put in the design in the middle, and then we're going to decide how to do our printing on the exterior circle. So we're going to practice on our white paper in a straight line so we can measure how much does our printing measure and how is that going to fit around the outside. Otherwise, we're going to get it all awkwardly placed around the exterior and we won't get the last word in. It'll be squashed in. So that's what this long piece of paper is for. It's for practicing. Also, I wasn't sure what hand I wanted to use for the Merry Christmas, and in the end, I just liked the very, very straight sort of Romans with no serifs or anything on. That seemed to work best for me. So that's what we're aiming for. But we're going to practice first, so you need to get your little bit of practice card, and then we're going to practice loading the nib with paint. So go back into that, here we are. Go back into that lovely paint that you've wet up and got nice and creamy. And then you're going to take your brush and you're going to wipe it on the underside. This is not the top of the pen nib, it's the underside of the pen nib. Let's zoom right in so you can see. So I'm wiping my brush on the side, and you can see that's depositing the paint in there. Now I am going to, for the first, to get it going, because you have to sort of get it started, I'm going to take the paint up to the tip. After you've done the first lettering, it usually is fine. It will go by itself. Then you need to kind of just let it drip a little bit. Now the key is, if you have your nib upright, your paint will flood out of it. So you need your nib much more angled so that the paint doesn't flood out of it. Let's go back. So on this piece of practice paper, you might have to poke a little bit with your pen to get it started, but you just need to practice thin lines. And then you need to practice your pushing lines, where you push the pen and then stop pushing to get a thicker line. So thin, push, and then thin. And then I need to reload, so I need to get a bit more paint, put it on my nib. Also, before you ever go to your good copy, you need to just touch your pen on your practice paper to make sure you're not going to get a great big blob of paint flooding out. Because if you go straight to your good copy, you'll get a big blob of paint that floods out of your nib. And then we're going to practice the strokes that we're doing. I put them on the handout. I have them here. So step one is coming from the center of the circle. So I'm just going to make sure I've got wet paint on my nib. So in the center of our circle, we're going to make a little dot. Everything's going to come from this little dot in the center of the circle. And the first stroke is going to pull down, get broad, get thin, and curl around in a sort of an oval. So practice that. The dot here, you're going to pull towards you, pull down, get broad. I need some more paint. Broad stroke, come around and up in a sort of a hook, like a hook. You'll need to load your nib quite often. So towards you, down, thick, up, light pressure, thin. Practice the no pressure and the pressure for the stroke coming down. Release the pressure for the stroke coming up. So it's like a J sort of, it's a hook, like a fish hook. These are all strokes that you use in Copperplate. So we are doing a decorative wreath, but we're using Copperplate strokes. So you're practicing strokes that you would use. The more you do, probably the better you'll get. The more you use your nib, the easier it will get to get the paint to flow. So after you've done that one, we have to have one that crosses it. So this is the edge of your circle, your inner circle. So this one's going to come close to the edge of your inner circle. Now the one that crosses it is shorter. It's going to come this way, shorter, and cross it and have a little dot in there. What's it called, Judy? A tittle?
Tittle.
A tittle. Yes, they're the dots on the eyes and the any dots, I guess. Are the cross of the T called a tittle too? Or just the dots on the eye? We were talking about that yesterday. It's real. We're not.
It's a jot.
We're not making it up. So remember, you'll probably have to load your pen nib every couple of strokes. So practice those two that are crossing each other, the big one, and then the shorter one that crosses, and then the little dot. I'm going a little fast. I would go a little bit slower if I was going to do my good one. The other place you're going to have some little dots is you're going to have, on the back of this big one that you do first, you're going to have 3 little dots coming up from the center dot, and then a stroke that curves around the back of the first stroke.
Do you mind doing the little one again? The second part?
The second one?
Yes, I guess you have to do the whole thing.
Okay, let's go back. I got a fresh piece of paper. I brought lots of practice paper. If you run out, there's lots here. Okay, so the first one, I'll put the first one in. So this is the first one. This is the biggest one. Comes to almost the edge of the circle. So do you mean the next one, Chris?
Yes.
Okay. So the next one is coming from the center again in the opposite direction, thick, and then thin. Thin crosses thin, and a little dot. So it's shorter than the first one. And remember, thin crosses thin, so you have to lay off the pressure about here. Just about there, you've got to lay off the pressure and go thin again, so that you get a thin crosses thin. I don't want to go too fast, but I am aware that we only have so much time. And then we will have the 3 dots and the one that follows this one just behind it. And then there's 2 other strokes that we're going to do. There is the fir branch, which is a thin line, sort of thick at the beginning, then thin. And then you're going to use short, quick strokes with just the tip of your pen coming up the fir branch. They're really quick and fine. They don't have to be even. Nature doesn't make everything even. And you're going to make 4 fir branches like that. So there's a slight curve. Everything has a slight curve. So a slight curve to the branch, and then start at the center and flick. Just flick your pen out fairly quickly, making the fir needles on the branch. As you come to the tip here, you have to kind of make a tip to the branch, sort of curve around. And if you want to, you can just practice that quick flick stroke to the side. Now see, now I'm getting my nib running. I don't have to load it as often. I've done several of these now without loading. The nib is really holding the paint well. So just, practice that kind of stroke. You're going to have to turn your paper too. And be careful of, when you do your circle, be careful of smudging. That will be a problem. May not be for you, but it's always a problem for me. I get to the end and think, oh, I smudged that one. Good thing is, with this watercolor paint, it's quite easy to wash it off when it's dry. You can sort of wash it off and dab it with a Kleenex, and it cleans up quite well. Right, I'm going to go on to the last stroke that you need to practice, because it's a leaf stroke. And I'm going to zoom in a bit more so you can see. We're going to have a branch just the same for the leaf stroke, but the leaf stroke comes out thin, and then you push on the pen and make a little leaf like that. So you can practice just little stroke, push, make a leaf, little stroke, push, make a leaf, little stroke, push, make a leaf. They will come out alternately. So one there, then one alternately, and then here, and then I turn it. You could do all one side and then the other side. I lose my spacing when I do that. And then the top one, I push a little bit more and make it a little bit bigger, and curve it in the way that the whole wreath is sort of curving in one direction. So practice those strokes. Just come out, then push, and then release. There's a little stroke, push, and then release. Little stroke, push, release. Little stroke, push, release. For your little leaves. Heather Held does a wonderful job of these. She has if you see any, I took a workshop with Heather Held. I think Linda Yachuk did too. Heather Held, and she has YouTube ones too. And she does, this is pretty much all she does, is leaves and flowers and beautiful, beautiful decorations. And I took I think it was 2 days or 1 day, I can't remember, Zoom workshop with her. It was fabulous. And she did many, many different types of leaves and dots and swirls, and she had dots all over the place. It was very pretty. Mm-hmm.
We had her here a couple of times.
Yeah, we were lucky.
Wow.
We had her here at least.
Lucky. They're saying that she came here. Wonderful. That was before my time. I'm quite a new member, so I consider 6 years quite a new member. It might be nearly 7 years now. And I'm not very good at penmanship either, so I always feel I feel like a little bit of a fraud doing something like this for people that have been doing calligraphy as long as Betty, or 30 years or something. But you know what? If you don't do it, you don't get the pleasure of sharing. And for all of you that are thinking about doing it, there's a great pleasure in sharing.
We really appreciate it.
Okay, let's, because of time, because we don't have a lot of time, we're going to have to push on. And if your first one doesn't go well, take another sheet of paper home with you and practice at home. Now, remember, when you're using your good sheet, you may have had wonderful success with your practice sheet, but the minute you put your pen on your good sheet, a great big blob of paint runs out. So make sure that you just test your pen every time you load it, because the time you don't test it is the time you'll get a huge blob of paint come out. And put your little, or not quite so little, a nice little dot in the center of your circle, because everything is going to radiate out from that dot. And then take a deep breath and start at the dot and come out away from that center line, less pressure, and around in an oval. And we're going to do both sides of this before we turn it and do the next one. So the next side is this side, shorter, remember? Thin crosses thin, and a little tittle on there. And then we're going to turn, because I'm right hand dominant, I'm going to turn this away to the left so that I don't, try not to get my hand in it and smudge.
And then, yeah, Caroline.
So then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go from the center dot, out, away from the center line, and up. Doesn't matter if it's not exactly the same. Nobody's going to notice that when they look at your whole design. And the next one is shorter, thin crosses thin, and a little dot. I made a bunch of mistakes on mine, especially this really complicated one. You'd never notice. I'm going to load my pen again. Test it on my paper to make sure I'm not going to get a big blob of paint. And I'm going to turn my circle again. And here we go again. And a dot. And turn. Now this is where it gets dangerous, because this is really close to my right hand now. And there's a strong possibility I might smudge it. So I have to be very careful. I know everybody's working, and I'm just going to take this moment to go see where everybody is. So if you're at home, just, practice your strokes while I just check and see how everybody's doing. That's fine. I should have mentioned that. Some people have got a gold gel pen, and that's fine too. That's great, or a silver gel pen. And if you've not done any Copperplate, that's a good place to start, just with a gel pen. And once you leave your pen for a couple of minutes, the paint dries, so you have to really get it going again. And test it. So the next one to do is the fir branch, which sort of comes out. Oh, no, I forgot the other one. Sorry, yeah, the 3 dots. Oops, I forgot that one. That comes along the back of this one. And then I'm going to go around and do that again. 1, 2, 3 dots, and then one around here. I'm glad I didn't do the more complicated one. I planned this one, and then I thought we're never going to get that done in an hour, so I thought I better simplify it. There's lots of these online. I did put a link on the handout to a really good one that had a template as well, which of course I'm not going to use because it's copyrighted, but you can click the link and use the template yourself.
Caroline, thank you for showing us how to load our pen, because I could never figure out how to do that before.
It's really important to just, where's my camera? I'll zoom in. It's really important to just do it from the front side, the side that's like you just wipe it on one side. You don't have to like wipe it all over or both sides. This side is facing my hand and my body, and I just wipe it on that side, and it pulls down in here. Now I put way too much on there now, so I'll have to make sure. And don't like shake it all off. Just, I got to get my thing under the camera. Just kind of lift it up and make sure that it's not going to, if you shake it, all of that paint will come off, or if you tap it. And then just make sure on your practice paper, it's flowing and you're not going to get a great big blob on there. But if you paint the paint all over it on you've got way too much paint on there and it's not pooling in the correct place. It should be pooling just here under the nib. And the more you use your pen, the better it gets. So after we've done those ones that I nearly forgot, then we need to do the fir branch, which sort of follows this one, and the little fir needles, little tiny strokes. And again, turn. Just flick your pen. And turn. When I first started calligraphy before I joined the guild I think I joined the guild 6 years ago. And I'd learned italic at school, so I was fairly confident with italic, but then I found all these things online with Copperplate, and I bought the nibs, and I bought the holders, and I bought the paper, and I couldn't get any of it to work at all. I just couldn't get anything to work, and now I don't even know why I was having a problem. It really takes a long time to get used to how a nib works, how the ink works, the pressure that you have to use. And I don't practice enough by any means. I did this week because I thought I can't go to class and not have practice, but and I'd like to reiterate that these strong dark lines is not what I would use normally. I just use an ordinary pencil because they erase really easily. No. And you can buy a black eraser too. So if you're erasing on black paper, this was just ordinary pencil, and the black eraser gets rid of it. So if your pen gets really, you've got like so much paint on your nib now that it's not flowing. So you need to give it a good wash and a little bit of a wipe with a paper towel. And then I just
see where I thought it's sticking up there, it'll need cleaning.
okay, and I just want to demonstrate something. So when you're loading, this is your body here. You just need to go here. Nowhere else, not back here where you were going, just
one side.
just one
like
side,
that,
and then
let
just
it drip down.
let it drip down, and don't get the back all covered in paint because it dries up and then it won't flow. Now try that on your paper here. Also,
Circle.
you're too upright. You need to lower your angle.
Oh.
That's it.
Oh, now I'm getting
Yeah.
it.
So if you're
Now
too
I'm getting a fine line.
yes.
Oh,
So
I figured.
yeah.
So I had two things going on. It was drying up and I
yes.
had the wrong angle.
Yes, that's good. Right, we solved that problem. That's wonderful. And the angle is quite critical. If you have your pen too upright, you're not going to get a good flow and you'll get lots of blobs. You have to have your pen down at an angle, especially to get these really fine lines. And I'm actually using the oblique holder to help me get the right angle. So the last one we're going to do is the branch that has the little leaves. So little leaf, pressure. I am going to do one side then the other side. It's maybe easier. Little leaf, pressure, little leaf, pressure. But I've got to alternate them in a different spot. Little leaf, pressure, little leaf, pressure, little leaf, pressure. And then big one at the top. Big leaf at the top. Turn. And what you need to decide when you've finished your designs, and I would leave some nice space for negative space for the eye to have a rest between, don't fill everything up. You then need to decide where the top of your card is going to be, because that will decide where your printing is going to be. If you want your printing to be sort of fairly legible as a greeting. So I'm going to make sure that I have my card up this way. This is the top. And when I work out my printing, where I'm going to put my lettering, I'm going to put Merry Christmas. I'm going to want it to be right here at the top, the first one. I'm going to put two more Merry Christmases, but I want one of them to be right at the top here. So that's, you can, if you want to, you can have one at the top this way up and one at the bottom the other way up, so they both read the correct way up. I don't know if I did one like that. Well, this one I just put it in the middle. This one I tried like a Copperplate. I got the measuring not so great, even though I measured really carefully. This one, my card opens this way, so I wanted my Merry Christmas at the top with even spacing. So I did manage to get it right on this one. But I only got it right because I wrote it all out on my paper first and measured it carefully to get my spacing right. So that's the next thing we're going to do. And the best way to get your spacing right is to use the same paper and the same ink or paint, but I couldn't supply that much black paper. I didn't have enough. But what I did use was I have this FineTec paint in black. So when I did my writing on the white paper, I used the same paint. The paper's a little bit different, but it's close enough.
What paper are you using and where do you find it?
What?
The paper, where do you buy it?
The black paper? Michael's. You can buy a pack of black cardstock. I also got some from, what's the company winners? The other company, HomeSense. HomeSense has art supplies in there, and I got a big pad of black card in there in a pad. The gold I got from different places. I got some gold from Dollar Tree, big sheets, 3 in a pack. I got some gold from Michael's, and I had some gold given me, and I got some gold from Crafty Capers, so I had gold from all over the place. But Michael's has most of those things in their cardstock aisle. I just used regular cardstock. I tried, I have some really nice, this is, I'll pull back a little bit. I'm going to put my glasses on so I can see properly. I had some really nice black watercolor paper. I just found it too thick and too sticky. The pen wouldn't flow on it really well. And I thought for a Christmas card, it's just a Christmas card. You don't have to buy the really expensive watercolor paper for the Christmas card, unless you have some and you want to use it. I just found that the
There's a black pad called Art Again.
Uh-huh.
It's black, it's pretty cheap.
Yeah, you can get black card quite cheaply almost anywhere. I've got grab your long piece of paper. I put lots there for you to use. And I've got extra rulers if anybody needs an extra ruler. Because what we've got to get is we've got to get the size right for getting the greeting on there. Now I have left a 5mm gap for my printing. I'm pretty sure that's about what it is. Yeah, it's 5mm, so I want to have 5mm. And I did the mathematical formula 2 pi r to find my circumference. But if you don't want to do that, get yourself a sewing tape and just, put it around your circle. You want to measure the outer circle because your lettering has got to hit the outer circle. And it's easier to do this part in centimeters. They're just easier to work out.
You can also use a protractor.
Yes, you can use a protractor. You can use all kinds of tools. Oh, I don't like this measuring tape. Okay, I've just decided. It goes from 1 to 10 and then it starts back at 10 again. I grabbed the smallest one I had in my basket, and I don't like this one. Oh well. So I think it's 20, I think it comes up to about 27 centimeters. And when I did the math formula, it said it was 28.5. So I'm going to go with 28.5 because I'm not. So the circles I've given you should be 28.5 centimeters on the outer circle. So we can measure that off. 28.5. I'm going to put a line there. That's how much space we've got to do our greeting. I switched pens for my greeting. I used a C5 nib to get a thicker line. So that's what I'm going to use now. And again, I'm going to use my FineTec paint. I have FineTec, but I'm going to use the black in the FineTec so it shows up. I've got to get my black wet. And again, you really need to wet at least 5 minutes before starting, so I'm a bit late with the wetting the black here. Now this nib that I have, this C5 is different. So I'm going to load it on the top, on the edge of that reservoir. I'm just going to stroke the edge of the reservoir and put a bit of paint on the tip. I'm putting a bit on the tip just to get it started because I haven't used this nib yet. And on the end of my paper, I've got a place I can do some practice strokes. Probably need to put a little bit more on because it hasn't been used yet. And then I'm going to do my printing as close as I can to how I want it. And like I said, I prefer the just very, very simple sort of Romans, but without any serifs or anything. And you don't have to do this greeting. You can do a totally different greeting. Whatever you want to put. If you miss out a letter, just put it on the end so that you have the correct measurement. I always miss out a letter when I'm doing this. I don't know why. I have to load my pen. Remember, as soon as you load your pen, you need to do it on a piece of scrap paper. Don't go straight to your good copy. Now, we're going to try and get the greeting in 3 times, but don't do any spacing yet. Just a normal space between the phrases, because you're going to measure your space at the end and divide it by 3. Mine are a bit wonky. I'm afraid I'm going a little too fast. And again, you can use any hand, any nib that you want to. Unseal looks quite nice around the border too. I did try that one. I quite liked unseal around the border because it's nice and square and simple. I'm going with just capital letters because I don't have to worry about any ascenders and descenders messing up my circle. And that was another reason I liked this one. And this is probably a good place to use the Jelly Roll pen because they're so easy to use. So there we have 3 times, and I have some space at the end, which I wanted. I'm going to grab I think I have a red pencil. So I'm going to put a line at the end here, and this is my space. And then I'm going to put a line between the 3 phrases. And I want to see about how long each phrase is. What have I've probably not got it exact. This is 7 centimeters. This is 6 point something. and this is 7.2. So I got a bit squashed in here. So I'm going to say 7 is my average. I'm going to try and keep it like this one at 7. So half of 7 is 3.5. I want to know where the top of my card is going to be. And no matter how many times I do this, and no matter how many scripts, it always comes right after the H. It just always does. I've squashed this one up a little bit too much, and I brought this one out a little bit too much. So we want to say that on your circle, at the top of your card here, the H is going to go here before the top, and the C is going to go here. And we want 3.5 centimeters in this direction and 3.5 in that direction. I'll grab my, so I'm going to grab my tape that I didn't like. And it's much easier to measure 3.5 with this little tape. So I'm going to measure 3.5 this way, and in very delicate pencil, not big line like I've got here, I'm going to put where that one is going to start and finish with the H. You can put it in pencil if you want to. So you've got it right. So it's going to start there. Then I need to work out the gap. So let's see how many centimeters this is. It's 7.5. I brought a little calculator because my brain doesn't work well when I'm talking. It just shuts down. So 7.5 divided by 3, 2.5 it says. So each gap needs to be 2.5 centimeters. So after this here, I need to measure 2.5, and that's where the next phrase will start. 2.5, that's where the next one will start. And then I need to measure 7. We said 7, didn't we? Did we say 7? 7. Yeah. And then 7. Is that going to work out correctly? And then 7. And then 2.5. Doesn't seem right to me somehow, but let's try it anyway. So we've got this H and the C, R, I, S, T, M, A, S. We'll put the pen on there and see if it works out. This is the hardest part, getting your words in the correct order.
I think you lost us at 3.5.
Or you can do it like me and just guess. Just a twiddly guess.
Well, let's see how it goes. Try my paint out on here first. My paint has got, paint's got all dirty now.
So you said it was 27.5 centimeters all the way around?
Mine was 28.5. Yeah. Just loading up my pen. Now let's see how it goes. So I'm going to do a dot between my words. So I want that one at the top, and then I'm going to try and get the other ones without smudging in my spaces. The thing is not to get too carried away and make them too big once you're otherwise they won't fit. Yeah, I've got my spaces in the wrong place. I knew something didn't look right. So that's 3.5. There we go. I just have my space in the wrong, did my spacing in the wrong spot. And I smudged it because I was rushing there at the end, and I smudged the top one. So what I did was I got my spacing in the wrong spot. Should have been there, there, and there. And I did a great big smudge on the top one.
By adding like little dipsy doodles if your spaces are way out.
Yeah, you can, or if you don't feel confident, you can have a Merry Christmas that way and a Merry Christmas the other way, and just have some leaves or something in the side. Yeah. So about 5 minutes, people are finishing up. So, and again, I get the backing, I get the tape at the Dollar Tree, and I got some lovely backing card at the Dollar Tree. So I turn my black one upside down and put the, this is double-sided tape, yes. So I glue a little bit along the edge, and it's really easy to just tear. I didn't bring any scissors with me today, but if you've got scissors, it's good to clip, but it also tears quite easily. And I put it on all 4 edges. And I usually have a bone folder, and I just burnish it down a bit. Now my rule is I always take off the bottom tape first. So I've got to, see this one I did at the top and at the bottom. So I'm going to take the bottom tape off first. Now the reason is this tape sticks really, really well. And the minute you get it near this card, it's stuck and you can't get it off again. But if you leave that wax tape on the 3 sides, you can line up those 3 sides. I'm holding the bottom part up that's sticky, and I'm lining these all up to get them nice and straight. And I'm holding them really still, and then I like seal that bottom one in place so that that's even all the way around. Then I can lift this up, and I can just peel the backing tape off while the bottom is secure. And you do have to burnish it down quite well to get it to stick. So now I've got all of that off, and I can just smooth it down. And then I do the same to put it on a card. I put the double-sided tape on here, and there's a pack of cards here. Please take one, I bought them. The Guild's going to pay for them. Carolyn's going to get a bill. Michael's, there are like, you get 50. In Michael's, you get 50 with envelopes. For, I do black ones, they do beige ones, they do white ones, they do all kinds and different sizes, and you have to fold it yourself.
Oh my God.
I know.
Oh, there's a problem.
You have to do some work. I think they're $15.99 for 50 and matching envelopes. And then I just put the tape on that, get it up the right way. Do you know how many adults even don't check the card opens this way, the top goes on this way? I've had so many adults in classes say, I glued mine on upside down, or back to front. And I've measured it so that you get 1/8 of an inch of gold and 1/8 of an inch of white card showing. So that's why the inches are so critical because the card's in inches. So it's all cut ready for you. Please make sure, like I said, Carolyn's going to get the bill. Make sure you take your allotment from there, black paper of cards, envelopes, and gold. Okay? And you'll have a couple of cards ready to go.